you're going to see people walking, hiking. I mean, it's great to see people outside and say hello, but you gotta, sometimes you gotta stop running. You gotta let people go by you, or it's kind of, it's a little bit more busy. But San Alejo, man, it's endless options, and you want to get good hill running in, like in North County. It's unparalleled. It's solid stuff. You can go anywhere. So
yeah, I mean, you can definitely, in probably 3 or 4 hours, you can probably get between 3,000 and 5,000 feet of vertical just in that little area from the house, over to the way up trail and over Lake Hodges and that sort of stuff. It's that I one of my favorite places to run, mainly just because of that easily access that we had to it. I think you always hear stories of these runners that live, they're a few footsteps from their door to get on trails and stuff like that, and I'm always envious of that type of stuff, and to have that access for a bit was pretty rad. It's a nice little area, and I was fortunate to meet up with some people over there that knew the surrounding area pretty well and had been running there for, one guy has probably been there for over a decade, so he knew trails, and he's seen it get developed, from where it was it was probably even more trails, a couple of years ago to now, and I'm sure there's even less, in the last 2 years or whatever it's been since I've been over there, that they've even developed even more. So it's
they did, they've developed more. They haven't cut out any trails, thankfully, but they are starting to develop more. So there's just more houses that you see. But I mean, speaking of leaving the door and being on a trail, when I first moved here, we moved in with Claire's mom in Escondido, and the house Claire grew up in was literally 3 houses away from a trailhead at Lake Hodges. So that's where she got to grow up and run every day. So, we moved here from Hawaii, and I remember taking a vacation here, and we stayed there, and Claire's like, I'm going to show you all my old trails I used to run. I was thinking, we'll go, because in Hawaii you don't really run to trails. You just kind of drive, and then you just find them and go. But I was thinking, all right, that's cool. That sounds awesome. Yeah, the first day, we wake up, and she's like, all right. She's like, let's go. And we just leave the front door, literally trailhead right there. And, I mean, that's that course, that's the Hodges 50K. That's all those trails out there. Like, that's literally her trail system. So she knew every which way. And then once they built that bridge to RB, she was like, it just opened up even more trails for her out there. So pretty cool. So it's like, she was one of those lucky people growing up, she's 10th grade, she was running in the morning out there on the trails and, all that stuff. And so that's another one of my kind of, I think, probably favorite more memories wise, like running, because it's like, wow, this is so cool. And we kind of, just had, those trails are relatively less busy, but they're getting more and more busy.
Yeah.
But you can keep going for a long time, and still, like you said, you get tons of miles out there. I mean, they run a 50 miler out there. You said?
Yeah, it's in January, and they I didn't do that one. I did the marathon and the 50K at Hodges. So I'm not real familiar with what the course is, but I know it had some climbing involved in it. And it kind of almost immediately went in a different direction than where the marathon went. But it looked like there was at least one serious climb right at the start that they had to take, and that was kind of down at the far end near I guess there are horse stables down there or something.
Yeah.
Over that way.
Okay.
I guess that would be east of the golf course, down towards that far end where you're running through some farms and country roads and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, so it just goes to show you how many miles, that's the point, just how many miles are out there to be running and exploring. So,
yeah. And that was a crazy thing for me because, my what I would consider trail running experience before I got to California was, in New Jersey, and, I think the one park, Hartshorn Woods, that is one of my favorite places. I mean, you could do loops and stuff to piece, together some pretty long runs, but I think the longest outer loop is only 7 or 7.5 miles, where it's when I got out there and people were like, yeah, we're gonna go for 20 miles, and we're never gonna run on the same trail. We've got, so and so's got a loop that we can run, and we're not gonna do we'll do one loop. So that just blew me away. And then also just to see what real climbing was just that changed my world, because you don't have climbs like that, at least not where I'm from in New Jersey, like at the beach. It's just, maybe you could find something that's like, 3/4 of a mile to a mile long, but definitely not steep like some of the stuff you see over there.
Right.
So that was definitely an eye-opening experience getting out there and running on some of those trails, and even running Noble Canyon 50K, where you basically run 15 miles up from pretty much 1,000 feet or something up to 6,000 feet. So that was my first real trail race. Coming off the roads where you're used to checking your splits, and you hit the base of a climb and you go, you look at your Garmin and it's taking you like 5 minutes to go 1/4 of a mile. It was just, I was so mentally broken that day. It was just like,
humbling.
It was like, it was so humbling. And I think maybe one other race after that, and after that I stopped wearing watches when I ran, like stopped wearing a GPS watch when I ran, because it was just like, pace just goes out the window. It's not even a factor when you're running at altitude or climbing for in Colorado, and even in Northern California you can climb for over 2-3 miles. Colorado even more than that, where you're just going you're just going up for like 5 or 6 miles, and it's just the name of the game is just moving forward to get to the top. So
that's it brings up like kind of a good thing, like where would you say, if you had to say top like 2 or 3 places you've run, maybe not specific runs but areas you've run where you're like, it's runnable and it's amazing, like as far as beauty goes, like, and just like it's fun, like nothing like, I mean you could run anywhere, but I'm just saying, like, what's your 3 kind of favorite places? It could be Jersey if that's one of them, but I'm saying just ensure like challenging. It's like somewhere you visited, and just like, and just something memorable.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I would say number 1 is probably the Marin Headlands in Mill Valley and Stinson Beach, that area up there just north of San Francisco. I ran the Quad Dipsy for the first time in 2011 was the first time I went up there, and there's a old school running movie out there called On the Edge with Bruce Dern. It's like this, like, one of those late 70s or early 80s like running kind of movie, and it's about this trail race that they run or whatever. And it, I can remember my dad sat me down and like made me watch, one of these, here we go, another goofy running movie that the old man's got me watching. But in that movie, like, it's based off of the Dipsy race that they run up there. So knowing that I was getting into trail racing and stuff, I signed up for it. I just, I know it's a famous course, and I wanted to go up there and experience it. And the first time I was up there, I totally got my ass kicked. Because again, I would just, the climbing that you experience up there is not like anything I've ever experienced. And there's certain sections that it's so steep that it's all steps. So like even like within the first half mile of the trail, there's, I think it's like 670 steps that you have to go up. Like the first, it's just crazy. And like, I remember the first time I did it, I was like, all right, I got to the top of the steps, and it was like, all right, we got through that. And then like, as you go through that 7.5 mile section, there's probably, 4 or 5 other sections that have steps. And I just remember being like, no one told me about these other steps. Like, but yeah, it's amazing trail. And, like if you've seen Planet of the Apes, where like they go into the woods after they, leave the bridge and everything like that, that's all that area that I'm talking about.
Wow.
And like part or certain scenes from Return of the Jedi when they were on Endor,
I remember that. Yeah,
that's all kind of. Some of that was filmed in there too. So, yeah, it's definitely my number one. Like, if anyone ever, says that they're going to San Francisco, I always tell them to head over there and check it out, especially if they're a runner, because it's just, it's challenging and you're going to work for it, but there are definitely some spectacular views up there. Like when you pop up out of some of these climbs and it like spits you up into you're running through a forest and you climb up through the forest and then it spits you out into this opening and you can see the ocean and stuff like that. So that's cool. It's amazing, and it's, as awesome as Colorado is and some of the views and stuff that you can get, at 14,000 feet, that trail, those trails up there have definitely brought me a little bit more joy. Not that the trails in Colorado are amazing, and I think Huron Peak is probably my favorite run up there in Leadville, or just outside of Leadville. It's a 14er, but it's also it's a very runnable trail, a very runnable summit. But there's like certain sections, like switchback sections, that remind me of those trails in Mill Valley. So those are the top two, and I've got like a bunch of fun little spots that are just always be near and dear to my heart in New Jersey, like parks where you grew up running and where they have the state championship cross country and stuff like that. But I think number 3 for me would just would have to be just being on the beach, running on the beach, whether it's running on the boardwalk, in New Jersey, or, on the other side where you are, running along the coast on the 101. Those is just, it's just very, very few times in my life where I've, partaken, extensively in surfing. I was into it a little bit, like through middle school and high school, but kind of got out of it after that. And so the ocean has never really been like that much of a draw to me, other than when I go up there to run. And like, when you catch it on like a cool day and it's pretty calm, and it's still early morning when there's not too much hustle and bustle going on, it's pretty peaceful. You can definitely kind of tune out and just get into the zone and just enjoy the the vastness of the ocean, especially not as much maybe in Jersey where you're kind of on a level plane with it, but like a lot of those sections in through Encinitas and Carlsbad and into Oceanside where you're kind of raised up a bit from it, and you can kind of like you on a clear day you can see Catalina and stuff like that, and it's just like that's pretty rad too, for sure.
That's a classic run. I don't think I'll ever get sick of cruising down the coast and enjoying it at a nice slow pace, compared to like a car. It doesn't, everything running when something's slowed down like that, it's so much nicer to kind of enjoy and take in.
Well, it's also fun too, because like there's always like the trails, you can be hit or miss with traffic and stuff like that, but on any given day when you're out on a run, there's almost on the beach, along the beach on the coast, it's almost a guarantee that you're going to get in a race with someone. Whether you catch them and they start to pick it up to try to run with you, or if you're like one of the days you were talking about where you're just kind of going out chilling and then someone kind of runs up on you, and then it's like, oh man, here we go.
Here we go. Yeah. It's always funny to see dudes do it to some of the fit girls around here, because it's like we got a couple friends, LeClaire. And then one of my friends, Bridie and Paula, I don't think these guys realize that some of these girls just can throw down, and if they try to hang on, they're just gonna blow up. It's you see it, and it's just so funny. Like, especially no offense out to those triathletes, but it's like these dudes are running maybe two or three times a week when they're training, and maybe they're weekend warriors and they don't want to get passed by a girl, but you know what? These girls, there's some super talented girls in our area that can just throw down. So it's like, you better be careful who you're trying to hang on with, because you don't know if they're doing a workout. You don't know, what they're doing, but it can turn around and bite you.
Yeah. I'm at the point now, though, where I know, like, if a girl rolls me, that, like, she's probably a lot better and faster and fitter than I am, so I'm not even gonna attempt to. Like, there's there's a girl in